Steve, you better get your running shoes on because this week we're running through the mean streets of Detroit in Aerial Knights Never Yield.
I keep it going like, I keep it moving like, I keep it going like.
So Steve, like I said, this week we're checking out kind of a cool 3D side-scrolling free runner, kind of parkour free runner called Aerial Knights Never Yield. This game we played on Steam. I want to preface with saying this game's about $10, $10 to $12, depending on where you're picking it up. So it's not a super expensive game. It's published by Heads Up Games, and actually the developer is just called Aerial Knight. So it's definitely an independent developer, and they've just kind of thrown this game out there. And I have never heard of it, and I don't think you have either. I thought this was actually kind of a cool stylistic free running style game because there are a lot of games in this genre. We haven't played a ton, but they are out there. So this one has to do a couple different things to kind of, stand out from the rest. As far as your first impression, Steve, what did you think?
I actually love this game. Visually, I think the graphical style really suits the game, followed up with an awesome soundtrack to follow suit.
Yeah.
And the other good thing as well is you don't need many controls either in this game. There's only the 4 buttons. It's either a high jump or high somersault. Then you have the medium somersault, a slide, and then a dash. That's the only 4 buttons you need, and I actually played this one on the keyboard.
Oh,
but
nice.
you played yours differently, didn't you?
Yeah, I played on the controller, and it was a little bit different. Like I think you said, we talked about this before the review, is that it didn't really matter which control style you chose, whether it was keyboard or controller. It did take a little bit just to kind of get used to the timing of this game, because the idea is we're prompted on the screen as we kind of run from left to right as, what obstacles are going to be coming up and what moves we're going to have to execute to get past these obstacles. And the idea is to basically do it without hitting anything and kind of do a perfect run all the way through, whether it's just a regular level or in some of these boss battles that we do end up fighting. But because I played on controller, it took me a little bit longer to kind of get a handle on it, even though it's only 4 buttons. What I learned is the controller actually operates as kind of 3 separate controllers if you want it to. So the left stick on the controller could do all 4 moves, the D-pad could do all 4 moves, and then the 4 buttons would also do all 4 moves. So I actually ended up kind of with a hybrid of the stick and the buttons, and I did find myself actually working pretty well with that style of control. I know some people might just stick to the buttons or just the stick, but I kind of find myself kind of just default pressing one or the other every once in a while. So I thought maybe if I could adapt that style of play, it might work for me. But I don't know about you. This game's definitely not easy. It had me kind of repeating some of these runs over and over again.
Oh yes, definitely. And it's the only thing is like some of the glitches, because what happens is when you come towards an obstacle, you go into a slow-mo stage, and then you see the vehicles or whether sliding or something exploding, and then you have to hit the button in the right time. And what I found was confusing, which I thought I was late on the response, but then you find you're sliding halfway through the car or something when it's like crashing and tumbling over the top of you, and you think, did it get me or did it not? And then it goes back to the fast pace again, and it is fast and hectic. But there is 3 stages to this, 3 modes in this game. There's like the normal mode, which it's the same sort of thing. You don't get as much obstacles, but you still get the slow-mo. Then the middle stage is more obstacles, but it's still the slow-mo. And then obviously the insane one is no slow-mo and just everything thrown at you at once. And it is frustrating. I found myself keep going back as soon as you die. And also, I want to quickly touch on very quick respawn. When you die, you're back in the game straight away, which makes the continue of the gameplay exciting. Because last thing you need is long load screens and things like that. Also, another thing about the gameplay is that I found the obstacles a bit repetitive as they keep repeating themselves on the higher levels. They just throw in a bit more vehicles or more people shooting at you, or even the drones coming up and flying. So that kind of put me out the experience of like, I've played this level before, but just that little bit harder. So I would have liked to see a bit more different backdrops or the landscape. And then obviously then you get into the cutscenes, which is supposed to tie all these things together, which wasn't explained at all.
Oh, not really. The cutscenes in this game, I mean, as cool as they look, this game's very stylized. It plays off the camera angles. We do get a change up of camera angles as we play. There is one level where we're running up the side of a building. I mean, they do a good job of kind of rotating you around this world, but the problem is once you get about halfway through some of these chapters, like you said, it really starts to look and feel repetitive. We may be getting different music each level, but again, if you're, dying and having to respawn and restart the level or restart from the checkpoint, you're hearing the same track over and over and over again. So there is a level of repetition this game really needs you to have, but also it does seem to kind of get on the side of maybe being a little too much at times. But again, it was a short playthrough. It took me about an hour and 15 minutes to get through it myself, and there just wasn't a ton here. I'd love to see maybe a multiplayer, whether it be local or online, or maybe an online kind of ranked where you can compete and have different, different times, and it's all based on, how fast you go, where you are in the standings. I mean, these are things I feel like they could add into a game like this, but again, it was just kind of a short, sweet one. It does what it's telling you it's going to do, and it's only $10. So, I mean, I can't fault it too much, Steve. If we've got a score, Aerial Knights Never Yield, what are you going to give it out of 10, bud?
I love the game style. I love the graphics. The music, I think, really held this game for me personally. But unfortunately, the repetitive of the levels and things like that, I'm getting this a 5.5.
You know what? I'm just a little bit ahead of you on that one because I feel all the same things you do. I just feel like I had a good time playing this game, but my experience was over before it really began. But at the same time, because this game was somewhat repetitive, I was glad it was done when it was done, because I don't think I could go through the same music and the same levels for 13 more rounds, right? So I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10. A very stylistic 3D runner with great soundtrack and easy controls to learn and master. But there isn't quite a long playthrough here, and some of the levels definitely start to feel a little repetitive.